Miracles are one of those things that sits right at the divide between believers and skeptics. For Christians, they're evidence of God's glory. For atheists, they are fairy tale magic for people that never grew up. And there's this ceaseless rebuke from atheists that is recited so frequently that it's hard to associate it with anything resembling free thinking. It's the audacious claim that there is no evidence for God. While there are plenty of logical arguments that could be offered as evidence, I think that miracles are the most convincing, and Jesus seems to agree with that. There aren't any passages in the Bible where Jesus goes around reciting the ontological or the cosmological arguments for the existence of God. Instead, we see him showing people who he is by what he's able to do: heal the sick, raise the dead, feed crowds of people with small portions of food. But for a lot of atheists, miracles have been prejudged to be impossible and therefore inadmissible as evidence. So I thought we'd take a look at how logically consistent that position is on the question of miracles. Before I get into the content of this video, I wanted to acknowledge something that happened this week, which is that my YouTube channel crossed the 10,000 subscriber threshold. And when I first started making these videos, I wasn't sure if anybody would have any interest in what I had to say, and I even consoled myself with the idea that it was just a useful way for me to record my thoughts, and if anybody took interest in it, then that was just a bonus. But to my surprise, there has been some interest, and that has been really humbling for me, and I'm really grateful for all of those of you who have been watching. So I wanted to celebrate this milestone and show my gratitude to you by doing a giveaway for this t-shirt, which was sent to me by Luke over at Beast or Be a Saint Ministries. Oh, and by the way, if anybody else wants to send me free stuff, you should totally do that. So anyways, I am going to give this shirt away, and even if it doesn't fit you, I have tried it on, so it's probably going to be a relic someday, so even if it doesn't work for you, you could probably sell it on Catholic eBay or something like that. But as reckless as this is, the way this is going to work is that probably about a day after uploading this video, I'm going to log on and look at the comments for this video, and whoever has the top comment is going to win the t-shirt. Now, I realize that this could just be a massive temptation for a bunch of atheists to come in and to start upvoting each other's comments, and which is fine. So if an atheist comes in and trolls the video and wins the t-shirt, I'll just troll you back by sending you a religious t-shirt. So back to this topic of miracles. I think it's important for us to start by defining what Christians mean by miracles. So miracles are signs and wonders that reveal God's supernatural glory to our senses. Because we have this ability to observe and draw conclusions about the way things are or the laws that govern the natural world. And science is our crowning achievement in making and interpreting those observations. When we define a natural law through something like science, what we're actually saying is that under certain circumstances, this is what always happens. So for example, when we define a law like gravity, we're saying that this is how two objects with mass always behave in proximity to each other. A miracle is what happens when something occurs in a manner that doesn't conform to those natural laws. In other words, it doesn't happen in the way that we always observe it. And since it doesn't, in the eyes of science, it's an anomaly and therefore unexplained by science. If science could explain it, then it wouldn't be a miracle. So asking for scientific evidence of a miracle is asking for a contradiction. And some people look at that and say, well, then miracles are impossible because things always behave according to the laws of nature. Well, the audacity of that statement is staggering, and I think it reveals a really unscientific way of looking at the world, because scientific inquiry has always been motivated by a desire to reach for the unknown. But if you begin that inquiry by defining what is or isn't possible based on your existing limited range of knowledge, then you'd never bother trying to discover anything. So I'd like to invite you to consider the rest of what I have to say without prejudging what is or isn't possible. So getting back to this definition of miracles, you could say that a miracle is by definition something that we don't understand. Again, it's an anomaly. It's evidence that the person who caused it, say someone like Jesus, has a knowledge or an ability that exceeds human understanding. And this creates a massive problem for people who say that there needs to be proof of a miraculous claim before they'll believe it. Because proof by definition is something that we understand. If you're giving evidence to somebody in order to prove something to them, if that evidence is beyond their understanding, then you haven't proven anything to them. You've just told them something that is true, and they can either accept that or not accept it based on whether they believe you or not, which is a question of faith. Like when my 3-year-old daughter asked me why there were bubbles in her soda water, my explanation about how carbon dioxide can be dissolved in liquid when it's pressurized isn't an example of me having proven it to her, because that explanation didn't make any sense to her. So if a proof by definition is something that you can understand, and a miracle by definition is something that you cannot understand, to ask for proof of a miracle is to ask someone to make you understand something that you cannot understand, which is a logical contradiction. So to insist that a proof for God conform to a self-contradictory criteria is a pretty good way of staying stuck in your own feedback loop. And it demonstrates for me an unwillingness to actually be open to the only kind of evidence that could be offered. So what I'm saying is, don't ask for evidence under some pretense that you'd actually be open to it when it's presented, and then when it is, retreat into a logical fallacy as some kind of defense against it. So if you can accept the possibility that miracles do occur, that isn't necessarily evidence that they actually do occur. And in fact, if you've never seen one, just as you've never seen a flying orangutan, that could reinforce the belief that they don't exist. But what if there are thousands of documented cases in which people have witnessed a miracle? Well, I'd say that's pretty powerful evidence. And again, unless you're content with contradictions, you need to resist the temptation to retreat back into the insistence for proof, because eyewitness accounts are the only kind of proof that can be offered here. Now, I can provide lots of examples of miracles, but for the sake of time, I'm going to just highlight the process by which people are declared saints in the Catholic Church. Now, you may or may not know this, but in order to be declared as a saint, there needs to be miracles attributed to the person in question. Now, without knowing much about how this process works, it's probably easy to look at it and just be dismissive of it. But if you actually learn about how the church how they approach this process, you'll discover that they're actually very skeptical in the way that they investigate these miracles. They look for any natural explanation that could be possible first, even consulting scientists and medical experts. And in the event that no natural explanation can be offered, then they start to favor a miraculous explanation. And scientific scrutiny of the supposed miracles is usually readily available, because most of the miracles that they look at are healings of people that were being closely monitored under medical care. And so what the church does is that they will ask the attending doctors if there's any possible natural explanation, like the medical treatment that they were getting for the healing. And if the doctor says that there is no medical or natural explanation, then they start to look at a supernatural explanation. So with an understanding of this very open and transparent process, we should be able to get an idea of the scope of how many well-documented miracles there are out there. And that, for me, is a commanding rebuke of the claim that there is no evidence for the existence of God or miracles. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed that, then please consider subscribing and liking, and come find me on Facebook and Twitter. It's a huge help when you do that. It helps us get these videos in front of more and more people. And a big thank you goes out to You Catholic for presenting these videos. And if you want to support the making of these videos, then please consider supporting my work as a digital media and marketing expert. My company, Holdsworth Design, specializes in branding, web and graphic design, marketing, social media, videography, and all that kind of good stuff. So if you know of a parish, a diocese, a ministry, or a business that needs help in those areas, then please send them our way, and I'm sure we can help them out.